Welcome to the Odd Pod, where we're talking Kitchener Rangers hockey with the oddballs themselves, Andrew and Justin. Take it away, fellas.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Justin.
We're back to regular scheduled programming. I have watched games.
Good.
You have watched games.
It's true.
We know what's happening.
Well,
feels like
that's to be debated, I think.
Okay. Yeah, fair. Yeah, good not to overcompensate.
Absolutely. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want to underpromise and overdeliver.
And, well, deliver. Let's not say overdeliver.
Yeah, perhaps just deliver in general, right? Perhaps, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. So tonight, we, of course, are always recording on Wednesday night. So tonight is the McElbows Top Prospect Tournament. So
the who?
The McElbows? McMuffin? What's his name?
The McGoat? The McGoated?
The Mick crying at the end of the season guy? Yeah.
The playing in June guy?
Well,
yeah.
All players are playing in June, just some are playing different games.
Do you remember when you had that core on the Flames? You had that nice core of a team. You remember? And you were really competitive and excited because what happened to that team?
Yeah, they all quit and went and got other jobs.
Yeah, because 97 was in the division. Yeah.
So we got some games to recap. So we played Andrew, the triple header. The triple header is so brutal, and we have so many. I think we're over the hump of them. The majority of our triple headers are done for the season, but we've played so many of them. Yeah,
that's good news.
And this was an onslaught. This was top teams.
It was really talented teams.
Yeah.
So
of course we played the Steelheads on Friday and we lost 5-2. We played the Colts on Saturday and we had a strong game, winning 4-1. And then we played Saginaw on Sunday and lost in overtime 4-3. So it was a solid 500 weekend.
Yeah, I mean, getting 3 points in a triple header is a positive thing, I think.
For sure. Brampton, they had bought some stuff. And so at Barrie, they had both, at the trade deadline last week, had loaded up. So it was like, I don't know what we're in for, but we went.
That's true. I mean, the Rangers stood pat. They didn't do anything.
Yep.
They brought in Christian Humphreys, who played top line right away.
And
which was another thing we got wrong.
Yeah.
As we used to recap in the earlier episodes when we had absolutely no confidence in ourselves as odd pod hosts.
Yeah.
And we've kind of shied away from that, but we still get things horribly wrong. Christian Humphreys is just the first line center, I guess.
It's hard to compare these leagues, right? Like he was playing NCAA. His numbers were fine.
Yeah.
His national team play suggested that he did have some pretty superior talent, and he came in and showed it immediately.
Right away, yeah.
So talented.
Although I will say he kind of got mugged in that first game, but we'll get into that when we're recapping.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Brampton.
All right. So that was a game. That was well, you know what? I'll say 45 minutes of it was a great game.
Kitchener was the better team for, the last 45 minutes. Well, the last 5 minutes, they were probably not the best team. And then the first 10 minutes, they were definitely not the best team. And then the rest of it, they were by far the best team.
They were by far the best team at points during that game. And unfortunately, they came out very flat. Nobody was skating. They were doing a lot of puck watching. Brampton came in there, it looked like, on a mission to make a statement. And Carson Rakoff was a big part of that.
Yeah, I think he remembered how much he liked scoring at the Odd.
Yeah, he had 2 goals and an assist. He was the second star of that game. He was in top form to play at the Odd. His interview was really nice.
It was,
that he said that it'll always be home and he'll always follow the Rangers. And you could tell that he's a Ranger at heart. He's doing what he has to do to play hockey this year in Brampton. It made me feel kind of sad. because I felt like, man, not that we need Carson Raycop, but imagine.
Yeah, I mean, he's so talented. We knew this. We talked about him so much in the preseason. You know, we're still pulling for him in the NHL. We're pulling for him to have a great career going forward. But yeah, it's hard to see how good he is and have it happen again.
I know.
But
I know.
also, it's just like crazy showing how he was the taxi squad in the World Juniors.
Ridiculous.
Porter Martone had a breakaway at the beginning of this game. He was by himself. There was no pressure on him. He had a straight breakaway, and that was one of the lamest experiences I've ever seen. No wonder Team Canada lost. Like,
lamest
Porter
experience.
Martone is your top line, and Carson Raycop is not playing? What is happening?
It was the lamest breakaway experience since the shootout with Easton Cowan at the World Juniors, where he did the triple pumpernickel, and it wasn't anything. If you're going to do a triple fake, you have to score. You made your bed. You have to score. And apparently somebody dug up a clip of him scoring in the OHL on that move. So, I mean, I don't know if that goalie did his homework, but if he did, unbelievable research levels to be like, if I'm ever in a shootout, what's he going to do? Which I think is probably a bit doubtful. But everything was lame about that shootout, except for the Latvian goalie. Yeah. And the Canadian goalie. They had lots of chances to win. However, going back to this game, speaking of goalies who were not lame, Jack Ivankovic, which I kept wanting to call him Ivankovic.
Oh, you really got the Justin brain going on these names these days.
Something's happening, man.
We've Freaky Friday'd or something on this.
Perhaps. Yeah, he stopped 35 of 37. He was kind of the issue for the Rangers after they got their act together. Of course, the Rangers went down 4-0 in the first 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes, yes. Not the first period, the first 10 minutes.
First half of the first period, they were down 4-0. I was like, oh, is this gonna are we somehow regressing back to, because this happened last year. Day? I didn't follow the Rangers as closely, obviously, last year, but this happened last year where the Rangers were first in the conference and then took a nosedive after Christmas. And I was like, oh no, is this the identity of this team? And no, they came back. They fought back. It was 4-2 after one.
That game could have easily, the Rangers had enough high danger chances that they could have, if Ivankovic hadn't been insane, it could have easily been a 5-5 game that went to overtime. The Rangers had some amazing chances. Pridham, Lam, Misiljevic. There was that one, what was that one crazy tic-tac-toe passing play? I think it was Swick, Humphreys, and I can't even remember who it was. Anyways, there was 3 passes.
Pridham, wasn't it? Pridham
was the finisher on it. Yeah, for sure. But Ivankovic just saved it. He shouldn't have been able to get from his left post to his right post that quickly.
And speaking of that,
the puck was moving so fast.
They hit the post twice.
Yes.
One was the commentary team got fooled and actually thought it was an incredible save. I thought it was too because of the angle. And then when you saw back, it was a post. And then very shortly after that, there was another post. So that could have been 4-4. We could be talking about this unbelievable comeback. Wasn't in the cards. Tanner Lamb had a goal. Max Tiracolo had a goal.
Yes.
Tiracolo. Who's been playing, we highlighted him last week. He's been playing great, continues to play great. I mean, Lamb, Pridham, and Ellenis on the power play. They're just so talented.
Masterclass.
It's nice to see Lamb on the power play. I guess he's on. I guess that's the second power play. I have no idea because
we've talked about this in the past. Yeah. We do not know what power play is which power play, but
no,
this one looked great. That one, when they were out there, they looked fantastic.
Bottom line, they ended up out shooting Brampton. I think, not counting the first period, they outchanced Brampton probably fairly heavily. They got stonewalled. They hit the post. Is what it is. You kind of go, well, we screwed that up early on. We'll take accountability for that, and we'll move on.
Yeah. Where were the penalties? There was no penalties called in this.
I don't want to complain too much about the refereeing because they were down 4-0 early.
Yeah.
But I will say that was one of the worst officiated games of the season.
And we really don't want to complain about officiating, but it keeps coming up, and I just don't want it to.
No, and I like I said, I don't want, like, I want to take accountability. If you're down 4-0 and, in 10 minutes in, it's fine. Like, kind of sounds like sour grapes. But the second period, well, first of all, in the first period, actually, just throughout the game, Christian Humphreys, it was like a welcome to the league, kid kind of
Yes.
vibe. Because why was he getting assaulted on every play and there was no call? And it was like clearly interference at the very least, maybe roughing.
Yeah, it was pretty egregious. Like, it didn't make any sense. Yeah, it was definitely interference because they just kept messing with him when he didn't have the puck.
Away from the puck. Yeah,
he just couldn't get into position ever because they were just all over him.
I was shocked that the officiating was as bad as it was. I was disappointed because Kitchener only had 2 power plays and they scored on one.
Yes.
And honestly, I kind of feel like if you want to say that that was the difference in the game, then that was kind of the difference in the game, because I just thought it was egregious. Like, the things that were not being called in the second period, especially. In the third period, I feel like the game tends to tighten up. Referees tend to only call more egregious things in the OHL in the third period. But in the second period, there was things where I was just like, how is that not a penalty? He just tripped him. He just tripped him in the open ice. Everyone saw it was bizarre.
Going back to speaking about accountability, they were accountable because they came back on Saturday against Barrie and won 4-1 in what was a very dominant Rangers game against a very good Barrie Colts. Like, not to discredit them at all.
I was shocked at what seemed like a gap in talent, ability. I don't know, effort, I guess, because I think Barrie's talented and Barrie has a good record, and Barrie went out and picked some people up and made some deals, and they're going in. However, they were outshot 17-8 in the first period and 41-23 in the game.
Yes.
And no
they
point,
were up 6-1 after the first 5 minutes. So 6 of those 23 shots came in the first 5 minutes.
That's true. At no point did they seem like they were in this game.
No. And I want to take it back to the Rangers. I think the Rangers came out and just shut down Barrie. Like, I don't think Barrie has some very talented players. I think they could have gotten out. I think because of the game the night before, I think the Rangers came out and they wanted to prove that they are not being kicked around this league, and they came out and shut down Barrie. Like, Andonovsky was insane. McNeil and Diracolo laid some of the best hits of the season in this game against Barrie. There was a physical presence to this game that maybe we haven't seen to this extent against any other team yet this season.
Yeah, it was basically end to end, every zone, all 3 zones, it was domination. And it was one of those things where we saw Christian Humphreys get his first goal of the season, of his career, of his OHL career, in the first period. They shook it up a little bit. They put Swick and Pridham on his wings, which I like that. I like that line combination. I just think you've got a top 6 where all these guys play a team game, from what I can tell. And it doesn't seem like anybody is a selfish player among those guys.
No. Well, Swick and Pridham have so much good chemistry that you could saddle pretty much anybody with them and they'd look good, but Humphreys added to that line, which was nice to see.
He did. I'm excited to see more of him moving forward. And of course, Cameron Reid had a goal in this one, which would have been the game winner. He's just we'll talk more about him in the next game, but he is, he was named top 10 on that scouting list. Who was that? Craig Button of TSN named him number 10. So he has Matthew Schaefer number 1. He's got Porter Martone number 3, Misa number 5, and then Cameron Reid number 10 as far as the OHLers are concerned.
Which has been moved up. Like, Cameron Reid, the lowest we saw him, I think, was in the maybe early second round, and he's moved up. He was sort of at probably the November mark. He was sitting around the 15 to 20 range. Then I saw him as high as 11 shortly after that, and now this is again the highest we've seen him at 10. So obviously what the scouts are seeing is the same things that we're seeing, is that Cameron Reid is a phenomenal player,
Yeah.
and do it all.
Unbelievable skater. He has great puck senses. He is able to jump up in the play seamlessly. I remember the first couple games, I honestly was like, is he a defenseman? Not because he was not a responsible defenseman. That's what's crazy about it all, is he also just plays a responsible game.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that like he has like a offensive ability that makes him look more like a forward when he's in the offensive zone attacking. It was great to see him get the game winner in this one. But Jack Pridham got an empty netter, and basically, Elenis had a couple assists, and Misljevic and Romano got in on it, and Chromiak had a point as well.
Speaking of Chromiak, Parsons got hit a little bit in the third period, and Chromiak went ballistic. Did you see this?
Yes.
He lost his mind at, I don't even know who it was that hit Parsons. It wasn't that big of a hit, but it was like, you could tell that Chromiak took that very personally. I just love seeing how Chromiak has fit into this team, and just like, he's in it. He stands up for Parsons. He stands up for everyone. He's
He's
awesome.
a Ranger. He's absolutely a Ranger. He's a great team player. I think he's a great defenseman. I think he's got a future playing hockey somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of guys who have fit in, it was the Grizz, Chris Grisolia. It was his return to Barrie, so we got him from Barrie. He played an inspired game too. He didn't register on the score sheet, but he had some chances, and he just, I think it's always kind of bittersweet when you're going back somewhere where you've played your whole career.
Yeah.
As a young kid like this, and he performed well, and he didn't take the night off because he's playing against his buddies. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he still wanted to perform. Yeah, for sure. I found the numbers really hard to read on this broadcast. I don't know about you. I was having a really hard time telling the players from the players. And I think the announcers were struggling too, because they were not saying Ranger names at all. Like, they were not. They were just saying all the Colts players, and then they were just saying, and the Ranger gets it in the wing.
How about the illegal equipment penalty that happened?
Oh, I missed that
late
one.
Late in the game. Yeah.
What happened?
The Barrie Colts player got a penalty for, I don't know if it was a stick or whatever, but it wasn't explained very well, and I just saw that it was illegal equipment, and I thought that was strange. So that's not something you see every day. I assume it was a stick, because what else would be a 2-minute minor?
Maybe he didn't have his fight strap on.
Isn't that an ejection, though?
Oh, I don't know.
Just a funny little nugget.
Definitely. And then on Sunday, we played the Saginaw Spirit. They brought some spirit to this game.
They did.
And they won it 4-3 in overtime. But it was still a good game. It was pretty close. Like, you could tell it could have went either way. It didn't really feel like either team had the edge necessarily on the other team, but Rangers were behind at one point in this game, and it seemed like it was going to be an uphill battle for them to get back in it.
Yeah, I unfortunately, I didn't see this game live. I did see and wanted to point out, obviously, that Lachar was in the lineup because it was Saginaw, and things get spicy with Saginaw, and he scored.
He did.
Like, right away, like in the first 10 minutes.
Not only was Lachar in this game, Lachar was an agent of chaos in this game. He and Arquette were all over the ice. His forechecking was amazing, and what led to his goal was a destructive hit from a forecheck. That it was just like so much chaos by Lachar. Arquette was there supporting him the whole time, just gave him back the puck, and he was by himself in front of the net. It was amazing.
Beautiful.
Everybody was like, didn't want to be near Lachar, so he was just by himself in front of the net. It was great.
That's great. And that's the edge that he brings. And
yeah.
And I think he hasn't been playing a lot of hockey. So when he gets in there, and he's a game changer when he gets in there, that's huge. So I would like to see more of Matthew Lachar. I know he plays a role, and he thrives in that role. And it's hard to get in this lineup, man, because there's talented hockey players, and
deep.
You can't sit, some of these guys at all. Straight up, they cannot sit. So it's hard to get in this lineup. So it's great to see a guy who's kind of the 13th forward, as it were, get in there and play really well. However, I will say, speaking of spirit, Cameron Reid had a fight. He had a goal, which was unbelievable, and tied it up late in the third. And it's just, remember when we said that the Jack Pridham overtime goal was an NHL goal? This was another one of those where this is a professional hockey player scoring a beautiful goal. Cameron Reid tied it up, but this was after he had a fight in the second period. I don't like seeing that.
I don't like seeing the fights, but he was standing up for teammates, and
absolutely.
It goes back to the Chromiak thing earlier. He's a Ranger, and that is a part of his identity in his game right now, for sure.
For sure. I mean, it's, he has to be, if there was Vegas odds, he has to be the odds-on favorite to wear the C next season, right?
I would think so.
Like, he's going to get drafted high. Yeah, it just feels like that's the way it's going.
The rest of the game was interesting. Second period was a little rough. They got scored on twice, and they kind of came out flat-footed. They came out in the top of the second period, like they came out at the top of the first period against Brampton. That's what it felt like. Thankfully, it didn't lead to 4 goals, but there was a little bit of flatness to their game. I mean, you're 3 games in 3 days in 2 different cities. Like, I get it, but also it's like, these are the games you gotta stick in. So that
and
you know what,
to get a point in this game is huge, right? Because Saginaw doesn't have a good record. Honestly, they have a fine record, but they don't have the record I thought they'd have coming into the season.
No, they are underperforming compared to what everyone thought they would be doing.
It almost feels like a Freaky Friday situation where I think most people would have thought that the Rangers would have had a Saginaw's record, which is close to 500. The Rangers are at the top of the conference, challenging for second right now and sitting in third. I think that this is a talented team that can beat you any given night. So to go into overtime and fight back and get that point on a triple header weekend, which I honestly sometimes can't believe exists.
I can't believe they do it, but yes.
But they do it.
They do. There was a couple things near the end of this game that I didn't love seeing. He got a checking to the head penalty in the second period. It was a bad momentum play, which is unfortunate, and I also think, like, he probably deserved the penalty regardless. So
sure.
It was one of those things where I'm like, I hope this doesn't end up in a suspension. I haven't seen one, so I don't think that is the case. But no. Reid got punched in the back of the head during this game, and it was pretty dirty. And I also haven't seen a suspension for that one, and I don't quite understand. So he kind of got bopped around a bit. He got in the fight. He dropped to the ground, and the guy started punching him in the back of the head. And yeah, it was pretty egregious. So I don't love that, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been a suspension.
They don't usually. I feel like if it's a willing fight, they don't usually suspend people based on the results of the fight. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I mean, what's crazier is I don't think anybody got suspended in Erie for the after the game stuff.
Yeah, no, and that felt like a similar
bizarre. So
especially for how hard they were going on the suspensions at the beginning of the season.
Yes, that's the thing is I'm not saying like, oh, suspend everybody. I'm not like, suspension happy, but this league was suspension happy early in the season. Everybody was getting suspended, right? Like it seemed like it was like guys were out of the lineup. You thought, are they injured or are they suspended? Which brings me to the next thing, the Elenis injury. This is the thing that they don't show on the highlights. They don't show the fighting. They don't show the rough stuff, the penalties, and they don't show like an injury. And I understand why they don't do it, but for somebody who needs to like watch a recap because they have an odd pod.
Yeah. They should cater more to the odd pod, is what we're trying to say.
They have to. Yes. They're stealing our ideas, so they need to cater to us. They couldn't possibly have the same ideas as us.
I didn't really see what the injury was either, so he left the game sort of midway through, and then he never came back, and I have not heard if he's out or not. Have you?
I haven't heard anything, but I saw scary tweets about it. I heard like dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, that's what the announcers were saying, is that it sounded like a dislocated shoulder in the way he was holding his shoulder when he left the ice. So that's not good. Sean Fafaro also sounded less than pleased about what he saw with him going down the tunnel.
Oh man.
But yeah, I didn't quite see what happens.
That is not good.
No, not
And
good
not
at
only that,
all.
the day after the trade deadline.
I
Like,
know.
couldn't be worse timed.
No. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully it's just a little bit of a bang up. Maybe he'll miss a few games, but hopefully that's all it is. So
Yeah, absolutely.
right. So that was our games. Who were your 3 stars of the week, Andrew?
Unfortunately, I went with the good, bad, and the ugly. And I'll tell you
Yeah.
my reasoning. It was
Yeah.
a 500 weekend, and I don't think that it was a negative weekend by any means. However, if you're counting wins and losses, strictly wins and losses, it was 2 losses and 1 win. Now, one
Yeah.
was overtime, and so they got a point. So it was 3 points out of 3 games.
I went with the 500
500
points percentage and went with the 3 stars. So
Well, that's exciting.
what's your good?
My good was the bounce back in the Barrie game. So it's a broad generalization, but I felt like the whole team just bounced back really well going into Barrie, second game of a triple header, and they really could have packed it in this weekend in starting in Barrie. After coming out really flat against Brampton, just had that bad 3-game weekend that they haven't had all year. They haven't had a week where it's just been, since the beginning, where it's been bad. So I have to say the bounce back, coming out and being dominant in Barrie was my good.
Okay. So my first star is Mike McKenzie, because he kept just signing these amazing NCAA players. So we've experienced so many of them, and Christian Humphreys is just the cherry on top of this season of
Truly
signing amazing players without giving away any draft capital.
Honestly, that's so much better than trading, because you're strengthening someone with a trade. I was like, I saw like reporters and hockey journalists saying like, oh, the Rangers stand pat. They don't do anything at the deadline. I'm like, what are you talking about? We brought in a D1 center to center the first line. Like, give me a break.
We got it. We got everything we needed out of not trading.
And we didn't make anyone better. So that's I think you're bang on with your first star.
All right, what's your bad?
Okay. My bad, we talked about it a little bit. The officiating. The officiating wasn't good in either of the 2 games that I watched. That's not to say that it wasn't horrendous in Brampton. It was. But it also wasn't great in Barrie. There was some stuff going both ways. I hate to make it a generalized thing like that, but that really kind of struck me as something that didn't seem like it was a problem earlier in the season. And I'm not sure if it's because now we're going down the stretch.
Yeah, getting close to playoffs,
we're getting
call
closer
things
to
like
playoffs.
games. Yeah.
It seems like we're back to like, you get a penalty, then they get a penalty. It seems very predictable that way of trading penalties, and I don't like that. I don't like that kind of officiating, and I felt like earlier in the year that wasn't a problem. What's your second star, Justin?
My second star is the Christian Humphreys Swick line, specifically in the Barrie game, where they had 12 shots, 9 of which were high danger shots, and 4 points in that game. They were unstoppable, and I really enjoyed watching them play. And Humphreys got his first goal, so
that's
win-win.
true. Yeah,
win.
True. Yeah. Win.
Yeah, win, and we won the game. So
win,
lose,
win, and win.
Okay, and what is your ugly?
I mean, it's obvious. It was the start against Brampton. That was the worst they played since the Windsor loss. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, Brampton honestly is just not a powerhouse the way that we all thought that they were going to be, but they looked like it against the Rangers in that first 10 minutes.
I kind of hope that we didn't unleash the beast in that first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I kind of got the vibe. I was like, is it like, are they like, now they're turning it on? Like, they kind of floated around, and now it's time to like play some serious hockey in Brampton,
Well, you think that they had a few players who were at the World Juniors, and this was their first game back from being embarrassed, and they've been embarrassed for the first half of the season. So maybe this is the Brampton reckoning that is coming.
That's not great.
Nope.
because they're a very talented team.
They are.
But I think that I still favor the Rangers in that, because I think that honestly, that was the worst the Rangers have played, and they were 2 posts from tying that game.
Yeah.
After a horrendous start. So
if
realistically,
you took out that first 10 minutes, the Rangers, nobody would think that the Brampton was better than the Rangers. My third star is Tanner Lam from the weekend. He had an assist and a goal this weekend. But more than those 2 points, he was driving play. He was creating chances. He was working hard. He threw a hit at one point. I don't remember which game it was.
yeah,
But he hit somebody, and it looked like it hurt the other guy who was much bigger than him. And I was like, go Tanner Lam.
the Laminator.
The Laminator. He laminated that larger fella. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right. News around the OHL. I mean, the exciting news is that the Hyman family and your best friend, Zach Hyman, bought
Just the sweetest man. I have his children's books.
That's great. He wrote
I'll let you
children's
borrow
books?
them.
Really?
Yeah, he's a published children's author. It's very cool. He writes good stuff too. They're nice books.
I hate that he plays for the Oilers because he seems like a really nice guy.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
What a likable human being he is. That was the best part. If you don't know, last year, some knucklehead reporter, in quotations, said that he wouldn't be where he was if his family wasn't rich. And yes, he comes from a well-to-do family. I believe his dad was in real estate. Like, whatever. Don't begrudge the guy. The guy is a 50-goal scorer in the NHL. He's a hard worker. He's a children's author. Now he owns an OHL team. Like, the guy just seems like such a good dude. So, yeah, I just love that knucklehead is somewhere cowering, being like, why does he just keep winning? So it's pretty cool that a current NHLer owns an OHL team.
Yeah, so I didn't even finish saying the whole thing. Him and his family bought the Brantford Bulldogs. One thing that I really like about it is that they've really committed, and they're working with Brantford to make the Bulldogs stay in Brantford. That's a part of their mission. They bought it from Michael Landauer, who is now the Sens majority owner, and he just doesn't want to. He felt too thinly stretched, so he wanted to sell it to someone who cared about this team. And it feels like the steps that the Hymans have already taken is to make this team better. So,
and
I think that's great.
Such an awesome thing for Brantford. Now, all we need is for realignment after expansion.
We need some division realignment.
And we need Brantford in our division, because they're like, what, 25, 30 minutes? Well, I think it's more like 45 minutes away. But it's
from Kitchener, for sure.
25 minutes from you.
It's less than 20 to get to the new Brantford Costco. So
there you go. So we've got to get that division rivalry going eventually once they're in our division.
Yeah, that'll be great. I think it'll be super fun. NHL Moment of the Week. You got an NHL Moment of the Week, Andrew?
I do not, Justin. So I didn't know we were doing that segment again.
I'll jump in with mine, because I think it's a good moment. So former OHL Sioux Greyhound Rory Kieran's got his NHL debut for the Calgary Flames on Monday, and he got his first NHL point 12 seconds into the game. And I think,
well, that's fun.
That's lovely. He got an assist, and then he ended up getting 2 assists in the game. What a debut. It was awesome.
That is fun.
Yeah.
It's too bad he plays for a team that gave up a couple years ago.
They have not given up.
The players haven't given up.
They are in a playoff spot when we should be 27th in the league.
Yeah, that's what you need to do, Justin.
I know.
Don't you understand? That's what you need to do.
I know that's what we need to do, but we just don't have that loser mentality, so we can't do it.
You have to play the game. You have to.
Well, they are. That's the thing. The players keep playing.
Yeah, no, it's true. I just think that the
young
franchise
kids got too good too fast, and
they just want to always flounder in are we gonna make the playoffs?
They love the 17th position. It is their favorite position.
How are you going to beat a team like Colorado or Edmonton or even last year's Vancouver if you're just barely scraping in? I don't know. I love it because I'd rather Calgary make it and we have a Battle of Alberta
I mean, those are so fun. And
yeah,
it would be very mismatched. I suspect if the Flames make it into the playoffs, it will look a little bit like Washington looked last year.
That's true. Washington had no business.
I don't really want them to make, like, I don't want to ever say that I want to see them lose. I don't want to see them in a top spot, though. Like, where
I
we
know.
are
Well,
right now.
that's the
Like,
thing,
I
man.
just like watching them win.
Living through the decade of darkness, man, you don't want to see your team pick first overall that many times. You don't want to see your team picking in the top 3 and the top 5 lots and stuff like that. But the weird thing is you look at these really successful franchises, and I'm not talking about my favorite team. I'm talking about like the ones that have actually won cups and built dynasties, or just like won more than one cup. And they just get the like supreme talent, and then they just fill in the gaps.
You gotta bottom out at some point before you can get to the top, for sure. So it is what it is. But Rory Kieran's had a great NHL debut. Former OHLer. So great.
Congrats, kid.
Congrats, kid. All right, so we got 3 games coming up this week. Luckily, it's not a triple header. So we got a Friday night game at home at the Odd, as always, against the Flint Firebirds. We haven't seen them since the beginning of the season.
Firebirds.
Firebirds.
Our first ever game that we went to together was against Flint Firebirds.
And then Sunday, we see our old pals for the second and final time, the Brampton Steelheads. So hopefully we can show them what's what in this one. Maybe show up for the first 10 minutes and then...
just play 60 minutes instead of 45.
Yeah, that would be great. And then Tuesday, we play London. It's a pretty hefty schedule. Flint's not bad. Like, they're not great. They're sitting third in the Western Division, 6th in the Western Conference. We're 1-0-1 against them. Hopefully we can come back and just beat them.
Absolutely. And that London game, I will say, of the people that interact with us, second only to Rangers fans, Knights fans love to comment on our stuff and reply to our posts and stuff. It warms the cockles of me eye. We love that the Knights fans comment on our stuff because we know it's driving engagement for
community building in the OHL through trolling.
Yeah. And listen, here's the thing. I will roast you if you comment on our stuff. I have been commenting and insulting people on the internet longer than most of these kids commenting on our page have been alive. So, if you want to go to toe with somebody who grew up when the internet wasn't serious business, that's up to you.
So since we haven't seen Flint in a while, a couple updates. I was trying to look for some interesting stats on them. So when you look at the OHL League Leader page, so it's like tons and tons of stats, the top 5 guys in each stat block. The only one that Flint has a player in is penalty minute leaders, with your pal Connor Clattenburg is sitting in 3rd. But who's beating him at penalty minutes? Our dear friend, Mr. Ando Lorien.
Nice.
Sitting 2nd. So we're better at everything. And then they actually made a acquisition recently. They picked up Sam McHugh, who's a Leafs prospect, and he instantly...
That was an odd trade.
It was, because it doesn't feel like they're in a place to be picking up that kind of player who is...
But Sam McHugh had more draft picks attached to him coming across than what was going back.
Yeah,
so
it was weird.
The other guy is better? I have no idea. I don't understand.
But Sam McHugh instantly became their goals and points leader, even though he got most of those on a different team. It hasn't been a great year for our Scottish friends there.
Sam McHugh.
All right, now we are at the point of our show where we are talking about the greatest Ranger of all time. The greatest Ranger of all time. We have done 21 of them so far. So, wow. Andrew, bring us number 22.
Number 22. He was born September 29th, 1964 in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. He's 6'1", 185 pounds, and he plays center and shoots right, the coveted right shot center. He played with the Rangers for 3 seasons, including his rookie year in 1981, 1982, where he played 67 games. and contributed 16 goals, 32 assists, 48 points. Pretty good for a rookie. In the 15 games of his playoff career in that season, he had 2 goals and 5 points. And of course, they won the Memorial Cup in 1982. So he was a rookie on that team, which is pretty exciting.
That's cool. And
then a lot of those guys who were great players after 1981-82, they kind of went along and, blossomed into great NHLers.
Became superstars in the NHL. Yeah, no big deal.
Exactly. Hall of Famers. No big deal. Yeah. This guy was a rookie. So this was his sophomore season. He's coming in. Oh my goodness. What a season it was. In 70 games, he scored 60 goals and had 80 assists for 140 points. It's 2 points a game. 2 points a game the whole season. That's unbelievable. And then, unfortunately, he dealt with injury in his third season. He only played 39 games for the Rangers in his third season. But get this. I had to check. I was confused. I was like, did he regress? Did he regress or something? No, he only had 39 games played. He had 40 goals, 60 assists for 100 points in 39 games.
Oh my goodness.
And he had 30 points
Wow.
in the playoffs that season in 12 games. He had 12 goals, 18 assists for 30 points in that playoff run. He is then, unfortunately, drafted first overall by Buffalo in 1983. However,
death curse.
First overall, Buffalo's good, right? He plays in Buffalo. Buffalo's never really good. I feel bad for them.
You don't win with Buffalo. That's the problem.
Feel so bad for them. He plays in Buffalo he actually played 21 games in his 83-84 season. He got called up basically at the end, and he had 16 points in 21 games. So he looks like a slam dunk. He goes on to play parts of 6 seasons with the Sabres. He's never fully healthy. He never plays a full season with them. However, his best season came in 1985-86, where he had 31 goals, 34 assists for 65 points. He generally is very productive throughout the first 5-6 years in the league, but injuries get the best of him. He also played, which was really fun, he played for a team called HC Asiago in the Italian league. He put up 88 points in 36 games and was the MVP of the league. This was
his league.
Yeah, the MVP of that league. And that was actually in between Washington and Tampa. So he went to Italy and just owned face and then came back.
He had a gap year.
Yeah, he had a gap year, exactly. He just owned face. The cool thing is he actually went back there and coached for HC Asiago for a little while. And he won a couple championships back-to-back for them, and which you'd think perhaps he's Italian. However, nothing about who this man is seems Italian. So with that, I'll tell you, my G.R.O.A.T candidate, one of the greatest single-season performers of all time in Rangers history with the 140-point season and the 30-point playoff run in 12 games. My G.R.O.A.T this week is Mr. John Tucker.
Nice. John Tucker.
And he must not die. I don't want him to die. That's a movie. John Tucker must die. Has nothing to do with this John Tucker. I don't want anything to happen to him.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
All right. My G.R.O.A.T nomination this week was born in Waterloo, Ontario.
Ooh.
Is there like animosity between Kitchener and Waterloo? Like, is it like a Dog River and Woolerton situation, or is there anything like that goes on?
I think there is absolutely zero animosity
totally
between
cool
Kitchener
with each
and
other.
Waterloo.
They're like, we came
totally
together.
Embrace each other.
Good.
Yes.
Good for them.
Yeah.
They're like the black and white cookie, like harmony in a cookie.
More people should be like the cities of Kitchener-Waterloo.
I think so too. This player was on that epic 02-03 Memorial Cup winning team, and you might say, Justin, we've covered so many players off that team. How could there be any more? Well, we haven't talked about the goalie. He played 177 regular season games with the Kitchener Rangers over 5 seasons, with a goals against average of .297 and a save percentage of .917 over 5 seasons. Very impressive. He also played 26 playoff games with 2.27 goals against average and a .936 save percentage. insane.
Okay, he went next level in the playoffs.
He's the Bobrovsky of OHL. Like, the dude is just like shows up in playoff time, but he was not bad in the regular season. Plus, he played all 4 Memorial Cup games in 03, and he had a 2.25 goals against average and a .911 save percentage. Obviously, they won the Memorial Cup that year. And like looking at it, I had ChatGPT do some graphing for me, which I'm not going to share because it was kind of ugly, but he has shockingly similar stats to Jackson Parsons. The lines are the same. They're just...
I believe it.
Yeah, so this guy very much embodies the Jackson Parsons of the early aughts.
So he would have been the Odd Pod guy.
He would have been the Odd Pod guy if we had been around 20 years ago.
Love it. We were around 20 years ago.
We were, but the podcast
not
definitely
the Odd
was
Pod.
not. He was... Unfortunately, this guy was never drafted into the NHL. After playing with the Rangers, he played a few more years in some senior leagues. He did make it into the AHL at one point, but he still lives in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. He teaches hockey. He seems like he's a really terrific community builder. He's just around and does this. He's a part of the community, which is awesome. So my G.R.O.A.T nomination this week is Mr. Scott Dickey.
Give it up for Scott Dickey.
Memorial Cup
That's
Jam.
awesome.
G.R.O.A.T.
I was wondering which of us would end up nominating Scott Dickey because he was on my list and he played an integral role in that Memorial Cup.
So we've been punting around an idea with these G.R.O.A.T. So we're gonna do the bracket challenge. We're definitely doing that. But we've also been punting around the idea of fantasy drafting a G.R.O.A.T. team. If you're interested in the fantasy drafting of a G.R.O.A.T. team, let us know. Let us know if you like this idea. This is just something that we're talking about. So yeah, want to hear about your G.R.O.A.T. nominations? We want to do that. Hit us up on the socials. Andrew, hit us up on the socials. How do we do the socials?
You can find us at The Odd Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Yes, we're on TikTok. And if you want to send us an email and talk to us about the history of Kitchener-Waterloo Cambridge or the Odd or the Kitchener Rangers, you can send us an email at theoddpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Of course, as always, we want to thank Kim Bourne, our Director of Branding and Marketing, always hitting us up. Andrew's wearing the hat today. If you're watching the video of this that we never release, you'll see it.
We'll post a clip.
Of course, we want to thank our prodigal producer, Liam.
The Phenom.
And as always, you can find us at
the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium.
The Odd. You let me say it. I did.